Hello students and welcome to our class, SOC212 Gender and Society. I'm your professor Justine Hecht. It's great to be here with you today as per usual. Okay, so I'm working through your grading your rough drafts for your zine, the 2 rough drafts for your explanatory analyses for your zine. And I'm noticing a pattern. What you guys have is excellent research. And now what you need to do is work on organizing that research so that your ideas flow clearly and make sense to your reader, right? And I want to say too that that's not surprising. All first rough drafts are garbage, including my own. I usually have to write at least 5 or 6 drafts to actually get to where I want to be with my writing. I do not expect you to write that many. I expect you to write 2, right? And the purpose here is so that you can see how the revision process leads to you becoming a stronger writer. And this will benefit you both in your academic career, but also in your personal and your professional careers as well. Because written communication is a central tool we use within our society, right? And so what I want to talk to you about today is revising and creating a thesis statement. Okay, so revising, often we think, okay, this just means that I'm going to go ahead and edit and check for typos, spelling mistakes, so on and so forth. But it's actually much bigger than that. When you're looking for the grammar and the punctuation, that's the micro level. You're just looking to clean up the little details, right? When you're revising, you're looking at the big picture. You're looking at large-scale concerns about the organization of your paper, about the analysis and if it's well supported and if it makes sense, and about the style and tone of your writing, right? And so revision literally means re-seeing. And so now you've had a little bit of time away from your paper. You can go back and see it with new eyes and start to look at it for, okay, what are the main ideas that I'm trying to get across here? How do I actually create those ideas and organize them so that they make sense? So things that you might do as you're revising is reorganizing your paragraph structures, refining topic sentences, incorporating more evidence or context, or even deleting paragraphs that may not relate to your main ideas. Most of what I've seen so far in the zines is that you have one big long block of text, right? And so you've got 400 words, 500 words, and it's just one long text. In every single one I've read so far, there are multiple ideas within that one long block of text, usually anywhere from 2 to 3, kind of depending on what you guys are working with. And so the goal here is to separate those individual ideas out into their own individual paragraphs. New ideas get new paragraphs. And so our goal today is we're going to create a thesis statement, and then we're also going to think through how to use note cards as a way to revise your paper. So a thesis statement is just a concise summary of the main point or the argument or the ideas of your paper. It usually goes at the end of your first paragraph, or right around there, and it can be anywhere from about 1 to 3 sentences, give or take, just kind of depending on your writing style, what you're writing about, so on and so forth, right? And so you'll see here, you'll have access to this on Canvas. Your thesis should be clear, specific, and state the position you are taking in the paper. Tell me what you're going to write about and the evidence that you're going to use to support your argument. And so when I say the evidence that you're going to use to support your argument, I'm asking you to tell me about the theoretical framework that you will be using. And so I've seen many of you have been using Bell Hooks's work on patriarchy. You've been using the concepts of hypermasculinity and hyperfemininity, gender scripts. I've also seen folks using reproductive justice, right? So these are the theoretical frameworks that you're utilizing to analyze your particular gender justice issue. A theoretical framework is just a tool that allows us to identify patterns and to explain why they occur. And so that's what you're looking for. Those gender scripts, those are patterns that we see that then allow us to explain why, say, Disney movies have facilitated a damsel in distress social, what's the word? Gender script. Thank you. Right? Right. And so you start to apply, what you do is you take your theoretical framework, you explain what it is, and then you apply it to a specific example to illustrate how that theoretical framework works, basically. Okay. So one way to do that is to create a thesis statement. Now, like I said, you're going to be talking about, you're going to tell me in your thesis statement what your paper is about and how you're going to support your paper using a specific theoretical framework. And so this is from my in-person Intro to Sociology course, and it's a good example. And so we can look at we can look at these two examples right here. First, we have what somebody is using as a statement, and they said that this organization, Mutual Aid Phoenix, distributed goods to people during the COVID-19 pandemic. So what we have there is a just statement of fact. That is what Mutual Aid Phoenix did, right? But why did they do that? What led them to make that decision, right? Why was it necessary to distribute goods during COVID-19? To who, right? All these kind of different things. And so with this paper, if we were just going to work with that statement, all we would do is kind of list what Mutual Aid Phoenix did, and that's it, right? Which can be useful if we're trying to be informative, actually, absolutely. But in our work here, we're trying to go a little bit deeper. We want to understand why Mutual Aid Phoenix did that particular work, right? And so this is where we start to engage a thesis statement. And so this is how it was revised by this particular student. They argued that Mutual Aid Phoenix distributed goods to people during the COVID-19 pandemic because state policies did not adapt quickly enough to ensure that marginalized communities would be able to access essential resources. Okay, so here's part one of the argument. This is the main idea of the paper, right? Then the part two comes in here. By differentiating mutual aid from charity, in which charity positions some people as deserving and others as undeserving, Mutual Aid Phoenix worked to ensure anyone could access the resources they need without having to go through the litmus test. So because goods were not being distributed in a timely manner for marginalized people, Mutual Aid Phoenix used the mutual aid model to ensure that everybody could access support without having to prove any kind of, need for support necessarily. So no reason to make poor folks justify why they need help. That's the idea there, right? And so what we see is that we now understand that the communities, that the state didn't respond quickly enough. And so MAP used this mutual aid framework, so that's the theoretical framework of mutual aid, to redistribute goods more quickly than the state was able to, right? And so you start to see here, this is an example in which I stated the student stated the main idea first, and then explained how they were going to use the theoretical framework to support that main idea. So that's what I'm looking for you to do here. And so, for example, many of you are using Bell Hooks' work on patriarchy. Bell Hooks argues, I'm paraphrasing here, but excuse me, I can't speak today. Bell Hooks argues that patriarchy is kind of positions everything that is feminine as less than and submissive to masculine, anything that's considered masculine, right? And so if you're applying that to, say, like Disney movies, for example, you want to show how is this particular Disney film uplifting masculine scripts at the expense of feminine scripts. And why does that matter, right? That's what you're working towards here. So you want to use the theoretical frameworks that you've chosen to help you identify what your main idea is, right? And so again, oh, that's this for a different class. Sorry, my apologies. Okay, again, creating thesis statement, just the main idea or point of your paper, and it includes the theoretical framework. So our purpose for this is to illustrate the argument in your zine. So for each of your papers, I want you to, each of your analyses, I want you to go ahead and write the main idea down on a blank piece of paper. Don't read your paper yet, just remember what you wrote to the best of your ability, and in 1 to 2 sentences, write down what you think the main idea is. And then which sociological concept, gender concept, best allows your reader to understand that idea. And so that might be patriarchy, it might be gender scripts, it might be reproductive justice, so on and so forth, right? And then from there, you start to build your thesis. Building, so this is pulling from this is pulling from the second one here, so you can go back and read that. Right, but there we go. And so now we have a clear statement about what the main topic is. We have a clear statement about what theoretical concept you're using. And then from there, you can write your clear thesis statement, the clear statement that needs to be defended, okay? And this then becomes the organizing tool for your paper. So now you know you have a thesis statement. All of your paragraphs that come after that have to support that thesis statement. That's what makes for a strong argument, one of the things that makes for a strong argument, a strong paper, okay? So next, I want you to do something. I'm going to offer you a revision strategy called note card revisions. I find this very helpful because I'm a very visual and tactile learner. And so it helps me to be able to write the ideas down on something that I can kind of move around and play with, right? So I think this is a really useful tool. So after you've kind of identified and formatted your thesis statement, now I want you to go back and reread each draft. And I want you to do this for both of them. Probably take you about an hour for each. So plan on 2 hours, okay? You're going to do these note card revisions. This always happens after you write your first rough draft, right? And the purpose is to decide if your paper should be reorganized. You're going to look for 3 things. Does each paragraph support your thesis? Look for unnecessary repetition of ideas and delete those, right? And then compare your note cards with your draft to see whether or not the sentences in each paragraph relate to the main point of that paragraph, right? Sorry, I use this for different classes, so bear with me as I edit while we go, right? And so again, does it support your thesis? Do the paragraphs support your thesis? Are there unnecessary repetitious ideas? Cut those out. And then compare your note cards with your draft to see whether the sentences in each paragraph relate to the main point of each idea. This is what you're trying to do. You're trying to relate each paragraph to the thesis, and you're trying to relate each idea in the paragraph to the topic sentence, right? And you're going to do this in a couple of different ways. So the first step is to read your draft. Identify the main ideas of your paper. Like I said, many of you have long blocks, and so you want to find what are the 2 or 3 main ideas that you're working with in each paper. Write those ideas on a separate note card. Under the ideas, write a topic sentence that would allow you to talk about that idea into a new paragraph. Turn it over. And then on the other side, write the evidence you use to support that topic sentence on the other side, right? And this way you have your topic sentence, you have your evidence, right? And now you have a clear framework for that particular paragraph to ensure that it supports your topic sentence, to ensure that your topic sentence supports your thesis, right? And then, right, so you're considering at the very end here if the topic sentence supports your thesis. If it does, awesome, well done. Now you have to figure out where that fits within the paragraph structure. If it doesn't, how does it need to be revised? What new evidence do you need to include, right? Do you just need to change the wording a little bit so that it's a little more clear, right? So on and so forth. This can also be helpful to do with a friend or, your parents or grandparents or whoever, somebody like that, so that you can kind of tell them what you're thinking and they can tell you if it makes sense, right? Very, very useful, okay? So this is note card revisions. This is creating a thesis statement, and these are the steps that you should take to go ahead and start revising your rough drafts. I also highly, highly recommend that you submit your rough drafts to the Writing Center. You can do that in person or online. You just want to include the the instructions for the explanatory analysis so that the Writing Center knows what I'm looking for and they can let you know if you've done that successfully, and how to. Most of you, I think, are going to want to ask for support in organizing your ideas. And I want you to know that's not a bad problem to have. That's actually a pretty good problem to have. That's normal at this phase of writing, okay? All right, so that's what I got for you today. If you need anything, reach out. Otherwise, I will talk to you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.